So, our number one priority is to ensure our own safety first. Now it says here, then your patient second. That is incorrect. I'm going to tell you that's incorrect. Mark a line through it, whatever, make a note. Tom said that's wrong, and I'm telling you it's wrong. Because your job is to ensure your own safety first and your partner's. You and your partner come first. I know that's what they were meaning to say. But that's the rule. You and your partner come first. Then your patient, then the bystanders. Bystanders can take care of themselves. Sometimes you may have to take a second and tell the bystanders, if you can walk, go over here to get out of the way. Or you get law enforcement involved and tell them to get the patients out of the way. But your first priority is your safety. Partner safety, patient safety, bystander safety, okay? If you see that on an exam, that's what you need to put. Wear a public safety vest, especially on the roadways. When you're working on any roadway, you are required by law now to wear a ANSI, what is it, 4, 3? What some standard, there's a standard out there, but it's ANSI. I think it's 3 or 4 protective vests. Your service will have them. And if you are on the roadway without it, and the DOT comes up and the DOT police come up, you can be fined and your service can be fined for not wearing it. But more importantly, you can get hit. You can be injured. I'm going to tell you that these vests make a huge difference at night. Not only at night, but they do it during the day too. So we need to wear them all the time. Some forms of hazards that we may encounter, chemical or biologic. Now that doesn't exactly mean that it's going to be a terrorist attack. Okay? We come into chemical issues all the time. Let's say you're on a car wreck. Is gasoline a chemical? Yeah. It is. Oil. Antifreeze.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said.
Now these things can get on the ground. And you can slip on them and get injured. There's also other hazards, biologic hazards. We deal with blood all the time. And germs, the flu, and stuff like that. Electricity from down power lines or lightning. I'm going to tell you right now, you put in your notes in big bold letters or whatever, power lines are active and hot until you are told by the power company. I don't care who else is standing out there telling you that it's safe. Unless they are from Georgia Power or the EMC or something and they're wearing a Power Rans hard hat in the power truck, that is a hot line. I don't care if it's the fire chief, I don't care if it's the President of the United States. You do not go near it because it will kill you. And it will kill you dead. Like crispy critter. Like, we're going to put you in a little urn right there. Bad, because there's a lot of voltage going through some of those power lines. If I had time, I'd show you a video of what happens when somebody touches one, because I used to have one somewhere. It's not pretty. So we stay away from down power lines until proven by the power company. Water hazards, fires, and explosions, and potentially toxic environments. These are all things that we can potentially come in contact with on almost any basis. Traffic safety issues, anytime you're on the roadway. Cannot emphasize enough, traffic safety vest. Position your vehicle so that other vehicles that are approaching see that there's a hazard, that there's an issue. Okay? Leave your lights on. If you have to, get out and put cones out. Direct traffic. Have law enforcement direct traffic for you or other people. But be careful. Don't let bystanders get out there, okay? Because you'll get Joe bystander who thinks he's Joe traffic cop and he'll cause all kinds of trouble. Make sure it's a professional out there, okay? If you have to, stop all traffic. Just stop it. Just park the ambulance on the road. Stop. Everybody stops until police get here, okay? Protect your bystanders from becoming patients. You arrive to take care of one patient, that's one ambulance. 2 patients, 2 ambulances. 3 patients, 3 ambulances. Some counties only have 2 ambulances. And consider environmental conditions. This is something that often gets overlooked. In the summertime, it's hot. If you're working on the roadway on an extended extrication and you're out there for an hour, could you get dehydrated? Yeah. Could you get sunburned real bad? Yeah, you can. In the wintertime, whenever it's raining and the wind's blowing, could you get sick? Could you fall on ice? Yes, you can. So you want to take these into consideration at all times. All right, so occasionally you're not going to be able to enter a scene. Very rare, but sometimes it happens. And whenever it does happen, we're not going to enter that scene unless we can either make it safe or we can have others come to make it safe. Now, you never operate outside of your skill level or your authorization, okay? Just because you're in an EMT uniform and you got a badge on doesn't mean you can pretend like you're the cops and tell people what to do. Because they have guns. We just have scissors, and sometimes that doesn't help much. Yeah. So we don't want to operate outside our parameters. So we want to get the people there that can do it. If it's not possible, do not enter. And what we're talking about here, okay, you get on scene. Let's say you get on scene, it's on, little old lady having chest pain. And you arrive there, and you see that she has a fenced-in yard. And as you go to open up the fence, 2 big dogs come running at you. You're going, hey, you like dogs, right? Hey, yeah, cute little puppy. As they're like slobbering and teeth throwing, right? You gonna walk in there? Yeah. No. But she says, oh, they're sweet. They don't ever bite anybody. Come on in. So number one, can the dog sense that when their owner is sick or ill? Do they know you? Are they scared? Because they're scared because their owner that they love, that they will die for, a dog will die for their owner, is hurt or injured. So now they're in protection mode. So they won't act normal, and they will attack you. So what can you do to make that scene safe? Tell her to put them in a room, right? Have a family member put them up. Or if you have to, you may have to call animal control, right? Because I'm not going to do it. Alright, so whatever we get on the scene, now we're on the scene. Now let me go ahead and emphasize, a lot of this stuff happens at the exact same time. Now if you look, and I'll give you checkoff sheets for patient assessment, and these checkoff sheets are linear. And they're in like a time order, it looks like, okay? However, whenever you write stuff on paper, I can't write things on top of each other. But things happen at the same time. We have a saying on all our checkoffs, scene safe BSI. What's BSI stand for?
Body substance isolation.
Body substance isolation. Well, that's 2 things happen. That's 2 steps on the check sheet. Scene safety, BSI. I'm doing that at the same time. I'm also, in reality, whenever I'm driving up to the scene, what am I evaluating the scene for? Scene safety. I'm looking. I'm always. Now, one thing I want you to realize right now is that even though on checkoff sheets, because we get in this mode where we're stuck on the checkoff sheets, well, scene safety is way up here. You evaluate scene safety all the time throughout the call. If the scene ever becomes unsafe, you leave if you have to, or you make it safe. It doesn't matter. If you are in a living room taking care of grandma, and somebody comes in the door with a mask on and a knife and says, I want to kill grandma and take her money, guess what you do? You leave. And you call the police.
Poor grandma.
I hope grandma can run. Throw a bucket, do something. I mean, but you can't put yourself at risk too. Call the police.
BSI, you said, is what body?
Substance isolation.
Is that the same as PPE?
That's personal protective equipment.
To protect you from body.
Right, I know what PPE is. Body substance isolation, what is that?
Well, PPE can be just a pair of standard gloves.
Right.
PPE can be a hat.
Okay.
body substance isolation is something that's going to keep body fluids from touching me. So sometimes they're one and the same, but sometimes they're not. If I get just a pair of leather or wool gloves, well then all that's going to do is suck up blood. But that could be personal protective equipment, right?
Right.
But it's not body substance isolation.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So sometimes they're one and the same, but sometimes they're not. It's just a different level. So if I'm, not all PPE is the same, like turnout gear, the firemen wear. Is that PPE?
Sure.
Yes, it is, but is it body substance isolation?
Sure.
No, it's not. It'll soak up
To a
blood
certain
and
degree.
everything. It'll soak through. So you don't use that for biological stuff. Alright, so determine the mechanism of injury or nature of illness. Mechanism of injury has to do with trauma. What caused the injury? Sometimes it's easier to figure out because there's a bloody baseball bat laying next to the person that has their ribs caved in. Hey, that's the mechanism of injury. Or the car is crumpled up in pieces. What's the mechanism of injury there? Car wreck. Somebody has 3 bullet holes in their chest. Mechanism of injury? Gunshot wound. However, nature of illness can be a little different, right? When you show up in an alleyway and it's just somebody unresponsive, and there's nobody around to tell you anything about them. And you'll get that at the club, too, especially the underage illegal teen parties, because nobody knows them. Nobody knows what they were taking either. So, to care for our trauma patients, we need to try to understand mechanism of injury. We're going to talk about that a little bit because the mechanism of injury can give us a way to assume potential injury or potential outcomes. For instance, if I shoot you in the leg, is that different from me shooting you in the chest?
Sure.
Yes, it is, right? It could be the same mechanism of injury, but applied to a different part of the body, right? As opposed to me shooting you in the head. Different, right? So, whenever we're looking at mechanisms of injury, we want to kind of understand where was the forces applied. Forces applied to the brain and spine, typically not good if they're big. So we can use the mechanism of injury, and we abbreviate that as MOI. It's a guide to predict potential for serious injuries. And we want to evaluate these factors: the amount of force applied to the body, the length of time the force was applied, and areas of the body that are involved. Like I said, if you're shot in the leg, what is your potential for death versus being shot in the head? Are they different? Yes, they are. Are they both potentially fatal? Yes, they are. But if you walk up and you have a patient who's shot in the head, you're going to have a little bit more suspicion that this patient is really, really bad versus someone who was maybe shot in the leg with a BB gun. Blunt trauma. Blunt trauma, this occurs over a large area. Let's say somebody who was knocked down on the ground and kicked several times or hit with a bat. Blunt trauma. Occurs over a broad area. The thing is, it can be a little more difficult because the skin's usually not broken, but there's usually some clues there. You'll see bruising and stuff. But one thing you want to really take into consideration is that the tissue and organs below that area may be damaged. So if you hit me in the chest with a baseball bat, if you're McGuire, remember that was a big old guy, wasn't he? He hit you in the chest with a baseball bat, right here. What type of injuries could I have?
Broken ribs.
Broken ribs.
Collapsed lung.
Collapsed lung. Bruised heart. Bruised lungs, right? Potential massive contusions that could cause pooling of blood. All those things could happen underneath that area. If I wasn't hitting the chest, what if I was hitting the side here with the kidneys or in the abdomen? Those are things you want to think about.